How did you get started in traditional archery? Well, today I'm going to share with you how I got started and maybe give some advice on how a new shooter can get into traditional archery for under $20. Let's talk about it. Hey, Joe McLean here from CatholicHack.com, where I live my life for God and I am passionate about traditional archery. Alright, so I want to share with you some advice if you're considering getting into traditional archery. There's no shame in just starting out with something like this. You know, I've been thinking about making this video for a while, wasn't sure exactly how to approach the subject. In the traditional archery community, especially a lot of the Facebook pages, one thing I do not see very often is shooters talking about PVC bows. Now, for me, this is how I got started in traditional archery. Back in, I think it was 2011 or late 2011, early 2012, I was speaking at a men's retreat up in Buffalo, New York, up in the Allegheny State Park for a ministry called the King's Men, and the retreat was called Into the Wild. And on that retreat experience, archery is a component. And for the first time, I picked up a compound bow and I picked up a recurve, and the bug bit me. And when I got home, I thought, man, I really want to start shooting archery. And I didn't really know how to get started, really have the money to go out and buy a bow, know what bow to buy or where to begin. I didn't know key differences in trad equipment versus compound equipment. I didn't have a clue. So, I came across this archery channel, The Backyard Boyer. I'll link to it below. You probably have already heard of him. And he was making PVC bows. And I thought, this is great. I can just go to the store and purchase a pipe, a PVC pipe, and start flinging arrows. And that's what I did. Here is the bow that started everything for me. This was my very first bow when I started flinging arrows downrange. It's just a pipe. That's all it is. You know, nothing special to it. A 3/4 inch PVC pipe. Inside of this pipe is a fiberglass rod that I wrapped with tape. Shoved it down there. I put some padding on the middle, wrapped that with electrical tape, and then I would just throw some paracord on for a string, and I started to let some arrows fly. I didn't even know you were supposed to match arrows with the bow. I simply went out to a sports store, bought some aluminum arrows, put some field tips on them, and shot them at a cardboard box in my backyard. And this was the bow that started it all. And I haven't shot this bow in several years now, so I don't remember like how heavy this was, but 50 pounds or something like that. It was pretty heavy. At least it felt incredibly heavy to me. I should string this up and check it out just to see how heavy it is. But it's a beast, you know. But so I started shooting with this pipe. And again, not very attractive, just a simple old pipe, right? That you can get creative with bows. I started to buy wooden hangers at a Goodwill and started to make Sias out of them and put them into the pipe. And this one I covered with duct tape. So it's got like a Realtree camo covered duct tape with some Gorilla Tape on the sides there. This, I think, was my second attempt at a bow. Masked this thing off and paint it, and I tried my best to make it look slick and nice. I even put some pads up on this curved part here. But this bow bent in half on me. And so I ended up cutting the limbs off and making a new riser and throwing the limbs on. I made these camouflage limb covers with some material that I bought at a hobby store. I would wrap the transitions in twine, and I'd buy some vinyl at the store and just wrap my handles with them. No matter how interesting I could make them, and I would try to get pretty creative on the patterns and the designs and the lengths and the styles, curves and all that stuff. I even made these horse bows for my children, because ultimately what I was looking for was a hunting bow. And one thing I have found over and over again, no matter how creative I got, but look, you can see this was the problem I was having with these PVC bows. As much fun as I was having creating them, they would fail on me time and time again. This bow shattered on me on a kind of a cold night one night. I was shooting out back. And this was a great bow. I enjoyed shooting it, but it just shattered on me into a million pieces. Kind of shocking, actually. So that's what I discovered time and time and time and time again with PVC, was I was not able to put them through a very rigorous shooting, let alone be reliable enough to take them hunting. That doesn't mean that there aren't some PVC shooters out there who have a different experience, who made the bows better. Because I never claimed to make the best PVC bow, trust me. One problem I was having constantly was just making sure that the limbs were perfectly aligned. At one point, I just simply got too frustrated to continue down the PVC trail, and I decided I needed a manufactured bow. And that's when I went out and got my Samick Sage. And that changed everything. That was the bow that I could tune to the point where I could hit my target very reliably, very consistently, and that allowed me to go hunting. And that was a big move forward in my journey as a traditional archer. So having said all of that, having shared all these PVC bows that I haven't taken out in a very long time, I want to share with you a couple of ideas. If you're new, if you've never shot a bow before, and you're curious as to whether or not you want to get into traditional archery, I'm going to give you a few pointers. And then I'm going to invite you to check out the comments below this video, because trust me, the shooters in this community are incredible, many of whom have been shooting for many years, have a tremendous amount of experience, and they are great about sharing that with the rest of us. And they're going to have some good, valuable information to share with you too. So do me a favor, check out those comments. Alright, so I want to share with you some advice if you're considering getting into traditional archery. There's no shame in just starting out with something like this. A PVC pipe for under $10. You can go get yourself a pipe like this. Now the skinnier the pipe, the lighter the draw weight. The thicker the pipe, the heavier the draw weight. And if you put a fiberglass rod in this like I did, it's going to be even heavier to pull. But for under $10, you can just notch the tips of this thing, throw some paracord on it, and start flinging arrows. I highly recommend, if you do that, is to try to get a guess, a pretty accurate guess as best you can, on the draw weight at your anchor. So in other words, just go with 28 inches. So how heavy is it at 28 inches? Take that number when you go to the sports store to buy some arrows. If you're buying aluminum or something like that, usually on the label it'll tell you the draw weight, the maximum draw weight, or the range for those arrows. Or maybe just ask somebody who works there. Try to get an arrow that is designed for your draw weight for safety reasons. You don't want to get a mismatched arrow. It can become dangerous. The arrow could break and it could end up going through your hand or hurting somebody else. You don't want that. For under $20, you could get the pipe, you could go get some arrows, get 1 or 2 arrows or something like that, and some paracord, and you're in business. You're flinging arrows downrange. It's a great way to get started. It's a great way to determine whether or not you love doing this at all. And if you do love doing it and you want to do more, then my recommendation then is to save your pennies and get a really good bow. And then get the arrows tuned properly, get the match properly, tuned properly for that bow, and then start honing your skill as a traditional archer. Now, what you could do is start looking for deals. Go on to Craigslist, go on to eBay, look online, your local classifieds. Usually a lot of the cities suburb areas around cities have classified web pages. Look to see at yard sales and garage sales if there are any archery equipment there. A lot of times guys are finding great deals if they just look hard enough for them, and you never know what you might find. There's some real key awesome finds. That Ben Pearson bow from last week's video, $50. I got it from the local pawn shop. They had no idea what they had. They didn't know the value of it. I did though, and I was able to grab that deal, and I was pretty excited about that. So that's a couple of recommendations that you can either start with something like this for super cheap, or just save your pennies and go out and look for a deal and get started. Now that Samick Sage, it was $130 a few years ago. I don't even know what it is today. But for well under $200, you can have yourself a great bow, arrows to match a fantastic performing bow for the price. I'm going to link to a review video I did on the Samick Sage. It's been out a few years now, and it's got a ton of views and watch time on it. And so you'll see what I'm saying. And so if you're just getting started, you don't want to invest a lot of money, you don't want to fool around with something like a PVC pipe, then I highly recommend that. But hey man, for my community out there, do me a favor, comment below, leave some tips and advice for new shooters on how they can get started in traditional archery for very low money, if at all. You know, just go to an archery shop, try out some bows, and see, maybe they'll lend you one. I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit. You got to get creative. But you know, it's not for everybody. And if you went out and spent $800 on a custom bow, or $500, $300 on a manufactured bear grizzly, let's say, and it turns out you hated it, what do you do then? Now you're trying to sell it, get your money back. It's no good. But this is a great way to get started, and you find that you love it, and then you can upgrade. You can move on like I did. It is possible to start out very inexpensively and then move on to something much better. So that's my tip and advice for you this week. I would love to hear your feedback, your comments. If you'll just leave a comment below. Do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so. I'm trying to put out a trad archery video every single week. I put out a second video last week where I asked guys for some recommendations and some other trad archery videos, and you should check that out. I'll link to that below because they gave us some great advice. Tons of trad archery videos out there and channels that we can check out, and it's all a part of our community here on YouTube, and I'm pretty psyched that you're a part of it, and I thank you for that. Anyway, I'm praying for you that you shoot straight. I hope you'll pray for me that I shoot straight, and until the next video, may God richly bless you. There's no shit. That wasn't good. Before I let you go, I want to invite you to check out my Patreon page, linked below. Hey listen, if you could prayerfully consider becoming a Patreon of mine, throwing me a few bucks every month, I'd be very, very grateful. My intent is to take that money, throw it back into the channel to bring you additional value. That's my goal. It's to produce these videos every week and to continue to provide this content. You know, it has to be a sustainable mission. So that's why I'm asking for your prayerful support in that regard. And I'd just be grateful if you went over there and checked out my little intro video. And again, I'm praying for you. And until the next video,